The air inside the ruins was thin and heavy with dust, every breath tasting of iron and sand. Lieutenant Daniel Vera adjusted the filters in his helmet as he stepped into the heart of the ancient structure. The rest of his squad spread out behind him, scanning with handheld units, their lights cutting pale beams across walls that had not been touched in centuries. The ruins of Charon 9 weren't new. Prospectors and scavenger teams had picked over them before, but most found nothing except crumbling stone and corroded scraps. Still, Command had ordered another sweep, hoping for intact cores, anything that could be salvaged to aid the fleet. For Daniel, though, there was a pull here, something unspoken. He hadn't told anyone, but the moment they'd entered orbit, he'd felt as though the planet was watching him. The temple was the largest structure left standing, a black pyramid half buried in sandstorms, its surface etched with faded grooves that twisted in strange, almost organic patterns. He ran his glove across one of the markings as he moved deeper inside. Unlike the rest of the ruin, these grooves weren't worn down. They felt sharp, deliberate, purposeful. "Lieutenant, picking up nothing but dead stone here," one of his soldiers reported over comms. "No heat signatures, no active tech." "Keep searching," Daniel answered, though his voice lacked conviction. Something told him the real discovery wasn't going to show up on a scanner. The chamber he entered was tall, walls curving into a dome, its center hollow and silent. His boots crunched against debris, fragments of what might have once been carvings or shattered supports. He leaned closer to study one wall, the patterns catching his helmet lamp. They almost looked like veins frozen in stone. That was when his foot slipped. It was stupid, really. A piece of loose rubble rolled under his boot, and he pitched forward, helmet cracking against the cold wall with a sharp clack. Stars burst behind his eyes. His comm filled with worried voices asking if he was all right. He muttered back that he was fine, but before he could even straighten, something impossible happened. A voice spoke inside his head. "At last, a human bearer. 5 centuries have passed. The lock is undone." Daniel froze, heart pounding so loud he thought it might rupture his suit mic. He spun around, weapon raised, but the chamber was empty, only his squad's distant echoes in other corridors. Yet the voice wasn't an echo, wasn't sound. It was inside him, threading into his thoughts like it had always been waiting. The wall he had struck began to change. Lines of faint, glowing light crept across its surface, tracing old grooves until the entire dome pulsed like a living thing awakening from hibernation. The floor shook under his boots. "Lieutenant, are you seeing this?" another soldier asked as their feeds picked up the light. Daniel didn't answer. He couldn't. His attention was locked on the shifting wall. "Listen, warrior," the voice continued, calm yet edged with ancient grief. "They will come, the ones who burned us. Take the key, use it, or humanity will share our fate." With a deep crack, the stone split apart, folding in on itself like doors opening after centuries of being sealed. Dust poured from the seams, and behind it lay a chamber untouched by time, air shimmering faintly as though preserved. In the center floated an object, an orb of radiant crystal, about the size of a human heart, suspended above a pedestal of smooth black stone. It pulsed with restrained energy, each beat humming in Daniel's bones. He felt drawn to it, almost against his will. His hand rose, fingers trembling, as if his body already knew it was meant to touch the thing. "Sir, what is that?" someone whispered over comms. Daniel's glove brushed the orb. Energy surged through him, not painful but overwhelming, as if a flood of knowledge tried to pour into his veins all at once. He staggered back, clutching his helmet, but when he steadied himself, he knew the truth. This was no artifact. It was a key, waiting centuries for someone who could use it. Behind his eyes, visions flashed, burning stars, fleets consumed by fire, creatures of jagged metal and bone tearing worlds apart. A war older than humanity itself, fought by civilizations long buried. And then, a final image. Earth, bright and vulnerable, standing in that same path of destruction. Daniel's pulse steadied. He didn't know what this key meant, not yet. But one thing was certain. By striking his head on that wall, he hadn't just stumbled onto history, He had awakened something far greater, something that had been waiting for him. The orb was locked inside containment the moment it was brought aboard the Resolute Dawn. Engineers built a triple-sealed chamber around it, shielded with plasma-hardened alloys and reinforced by gravstasis fields. Yet despite all that, the artifact still pulsed faintly, its glow seeping through layers of metal as if the ship itself wasn't strong enough to hold it. Scientists worked day and night, running scans, firing beams of every spectrum across its surface. They got the same result, unreadable. Not even the most advanced Terran tech could pierce its secrets. To the Admiralty, it was just another alien curiosity, possibly valuable but not immediately useful. For Daniel Vera, it was different. The whispers hadn't stopped. Even when he slept, the voice threaded into his dreams, patient and insistent. Sometimes it was a whisper in the back of his skull, other times a roar so sharp it startled him awake. It spoke of danger, of enemies drawing near, of a war that hadn't ended, only paused. The Zathians destroyed us, it told him. They will come for you as they came for us. The key is not a weapon. It is a door. Do not let them take it. He tried reporting it to the medical corps, but the doctors found nothing. Neural scans showed no abnormalities, no implants, no foreign signals. Command dismissed his warnings as stress. You've been on too many campaigns, Lieutenant, his captain said. Get some rest, Daniel stopped arguing. He simply watched the orb, listened, and waited. The waiting didn't last long. 3 days after the orb was recovered, the sky above Earth tore open. The Resolute Dawn was in orbit when the alarm sounded. The ship's tactical display filled with crimson markers, dozens of enemy signatures dropping out of hyperspace. Zathian warships. Not a raiding party this time. Not a probe. An armada. Their ships were horrors of jagged obsidian plating, all teeth and spines, each vessel built less like a machine and more like a predator. They moved in perfect synchrony, black wings cutting across the void. Contact! Multiple battle carriers, destroyers, frigates, God, there's hundreds! The sensor officer shouted. The bridge lit up with urgent chatter. Fleet Command scrambled every ship in reach. Orbital defense platforms opened fire, filling the sky with streaks of plasma. The first human salvos hit home, tearing apart enemy frigates. But then the Zathians answered. Antimatter beams cut through cruisers like knives through cloth. In seconds, whole Terran squadrons were reduced to burning wreckage. Defense stations exploded, raining fire down into the upper atmosphere. Civilian habitats screamed for evacuation. But there weren't enough transports to carry them all. Humanity's greatest fleet was being torn apart before Daniel's eyes. And then the orb lit up. In its containment chamber, alarms wailed as the crystal's glow intensified, overwhelming sensors. Daniel ran to the chamber, ignoring orders to remain at his post. By the time he arrived, the artifact had already transformed the room. The air shimmered with projections, maps of stars, strange constellations stretching farther than Terran charts ever recorded. At the center, Daniel saw gates, wormholes, linked in a network that spread like veins across the galaxy. Worlds hidden from known space, pathways no one had ever discovered. The voice filled him again, not whispering now, but commanding. These are our refuges, strongholds the Zathians never found. Take your people there, find what we left. Fight with what we could not. He staggered back, overwhelmed. A door. The orb wasn't just knowledge. It was a navigation key, a way into an ancient network of secret strongholds, armories, fortresses, untouched for centuries. And the Zathians knew it existed. That was why they had come in force. They weren't here for Earth, not really. They were here for this. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The urgency, the whispers, the warnings. Daniel hit the comms, patching straight to the fleet admiral. Admiral Drake, listen to me. This isn't random. They're after the artifact. It's a key to something bigger, something they fear. If we can reach the strongholds first, we stand a chance. Drake didn't respond at once. The background noise was chaos. Orders shouted, explosions, tactical officers reporting more losses. Then her voice cut through, steel even under fire. Lieutenant, if you've got a path to survival, you'd better show me fast. Because in 10 minutes, Earth won't have a fleet left to fight. The resolute Dawn shuddered as an enemy beam sliced across its shields. Daniel steadied himself against the railing, eyes fixed on the glowing orb. The choice was clear. Humanity could stay and die or leap into the unknown. Daniel set his jaw. Then we go through the first gate. The resolute Dawn surged toward the shimmering gate, its engines screaming at redline. Behind it, Earth's orbit was an inferno, Terran ships burning, debris scattering across the void. Admiral Kara Drake's orders echoed through every channel. Hold the line. Buy them time. The fleet obeyed. Destroyers and frigates hurled themselves into the path of the Zathian armada, trading their hulls for precious seconds. Plasma torpedoes cut down alien frigates. Human cruisers rammed enemy carriers head-on, detonating their cores in suicidal flashes. Every loss opened one more heartbeat of space for Daniel's mission. When the resolute Dawn pierced the gate, the universe tore like cloth. For a moment, the crew felt weightless, suspended in a tunnel of spinning stars. Then they fell through, bursting into a new system. It was like nothing in human records. Ahead floated a graveyard, hulking remains of alien vessels the size of cities, their skeletons drifting silently in orbit around a red giant star. The wrecks dwarfed even Earth's biggest dreadnoughts, and though most were torn open and lifeless, their hulls still radiated dormant energy, as if daring intruders to wake them. Gasps filled the bridge. "Those ships," one officer whispered. "They're ancient. Look at the scale." Daniel wasn't distracted. The orb pulsed faintly on its pedestal, throwing up more data streams. "This was our last stand," the voice explained in his head. "Here, we bled until the stars dimmed. But fragments remain. Use them." There was no time for awe. Sensors flared. Zethian pursuit ships had followed through the gate. Dozens of them, sleek and vicious, already fanning out for attack. "Battle stations!" Daniel barked. The resolute Dawn's guns opened fire, its escorts forming a tight wall around it. But the Zethians were faster, their fighters swarming like a living tide. Human ships shook under impacts, shields collapsing. Then the engineers tried something desperate. One of the wrecked alien cruisers still held a power core, faint but alive. Against every safety protocol, the engineering crew spliced Terran conduits into it, bridging two technologies never meant to meet. The ship groaned as systems overloaded, but then its cannons fired, and the effect was staggering. A single bolt of white-blue plasma erupted from the resolute Dawn, slicing through an entire enemy destroyer in one shot. Cheers broke across the comms. For the first time, Zathians faltered. Other crews followed suit. Teams in scorched engine bays tore open panels, welding alien conduits into Terran turrets, patching circuits with nothing but grit and hope. Ships that should have been wrecks came alive with stolen fire. The battlefield transformed. Humanity, cornered and bleeding, turned alien relics into weapons mid-battle. Zathians, used to overwhelming their prey, found themselves under fire from cannons they didn't recognize. Fighters detonated. Carriers buckled. A Leviathan frigate shrieked and split in half under a barrage of hybrid torpedoes. Daniel's voice carried across all channels. "This is how we fight! Take what they left and turn it against them. Every piece of their arrogance is ours now. Push them back!" The crew responded with fury. Ships that should have fled pressed the attack, blasting wrecks into shrapnel, tearing into enemy wings. Even when hulls cracked and oxygen vented into space, humans fought on, welding patches mid-battle, firing until their last coil overheated. After hours of brutal exchange, the impossible happened. The Zathians broke formation. Their sleek, perfect lines scattered. Ships began retreating toward the edges of the system, hounded by fire. Humanity, bloodied, exhausted, half their fleet in ruins, had won their first victory. On the bridge of the resolute Dawn, silence fell when the last enemy blip vanished from radar. Only then did the cheers erupt, raw and hoarse. Crew members embraced, shouting, laughing through tears. For the first time since the invasion began, hope surged through them. Daniel didn't join the cheering. He stood at the viewport, staring at the drifting alien wrecks. He knew this was only the beginning. The orb's whispers hadn't quieted. They had grown louder. More gates remain, more strongholds, But they will not stop hunting you. With every step forward they will follow. Daniel clenched his fists. Humanity had bled for centuries to claim its place among the stars. Now, with stolen fire in their hands, they finally had a chance to stand. Not as prey, but as equals, and one day, as victors. The wreckage of Zathian ships still glowed in the void when the Terran fleet regrouped. The victory in the graveyard system spread like wildfire across every channel. Colonies that had been preparing for evacuation suddenly clung to a new word, hope. But Daniel knew the cost. Nearly half the fleet had been lost, and the survivors were running on patched reactors and jury-rigged alien cores. The orb didn't let him rest. Its voice pushed harder now, filling his head with fragments of memory not his own. He saw towering cities of crystal, alien warriors in golden armor, banners waving across suns. The Voon, that was their name, had ruled vast stretches of the galaxy before the Zethians came. They had built the gates, carved empires with technology that bent stars themselves, and still they were annihilated. "We fought until we drowned in our own fire," the voice confessed. "They learned us, adapted, consumed. Our pride destroyed us, but in you we see something different. You are not made to last. You are made to endure." Daniel understood the hidden meaning. The Zathians hadn't just stumbled on humanity by chance. They had been waiting, watching until humans reached for the stars, then moving to snuff them out before they could grow too strong. News from the outer colonies confirmed it. Entire worlds were under siege. Zathian ground forces weren't sleek and mechanical like their ships. They were worse. Biomechanical war beasts, towering on clawed limbs, fused with armor and plasma cannons. They fell from orbit like meteors, tearing cities apart the moment they landed. One such report came from Rhea Prime, a mining colony with little more than militia rifles to defend itself. Daniel watched the feed. Civilians firing from rooftops, children huddled in tunnels, militia units being ripped to shreds by creatures that looked part machine, part predator. The desperation was unbearable. Yet those colonists didn't surrender. They fought with whatever they had, grenades, mining drills, improvised traps. That was when Daniel realized what the orb meant. Humanity wasn't stronger or faster or older, but they were relentless. They turned weakness into fury and fury into survival. Still, survival wasn't enough. The Admiralty demanded answers. In an emergency council, Daniel presented what the orb had revealed, caches of Voon strongholds hidden across the gate network. If humanity could seize them before the Zethians did, they might gain more than just weapons. They might gain knowledge, the very edge the Voon had lost. The council was divided. Some feared it was a trap. Others argued the fleet was too battered to chase legends. Admiral Drake silenced them with a single line. "We don't have the luxury of fear. If we wait, we die. If we fight, at least we choose the terms." And so, humanity's war became a race. Strike groups leapt through the gates, each mission a gamble. Some found abandoned arsenals still humming with dormant power. Others stumbled into ambushes, losing ships before they could even fire. Every discovery sharpened humanity's blade, but every loss reminded them how thin their margin was. The Zethians adapted too. Where once they had sent sleek destroyers, now they unleashed leviathans, colossal ships of living metal bristling with weapons that pulsed like beating hearts. These weren't mere war machines. They were predators, grown in the depths of alien forges, able to heal wounds in their hulls mid-battle. The first clash with a leviathan nearly broke the Terran fleet. Human missiles cratered its surface, but it regenerated faster than they could damage it. Shields cracked, fighters were swatted from the sky. Desperation forced a Terran cruiser to ram its reactor straight into the beast's core, detonating in a blaze that finally brought it down. Even in victory, 3 more human ships died from the shockwave. Still, word of that sacrifice spread across the colonies like fire. Humanity had stared down a nightmare and destroyed it. They could bleed the monsters. For Daniel, the pressure grew unbearable. Each night, the orb filled him with more memories of the Voon's downfall. Cities turned to ash, fleets swallowed in black storms, voices screaming as entire species burned. The Zathians had mocked them then, as they mocked humans now, calling them fragile, calling them weak. Yet Daniel no longer saw weakness in humanity's fragility. He saw a weapon the Zathians didn't understand, the will to fight on even when broken. The orb's final words that night were not a warning, but a promise. They believe you will break as we did. Show them you are not us. Show them what it means to be human. Daniel closed his eyes, jaw set. Humanity had chosen its path. They would not kneel. They would burn if they had to, but they would burn fighting. The orb's maps burned with new light, marking one system brighter than all the rest. Daniel knew instantly what it meant. This wasn't another cache, another graveyard, or some forgotten outpost. This was the end of the line, the final gate, the place where the Voon had hidden their greatest secret. The Terran fleet limped into staging orbit around Titan, battered from months of fighting. Hulls were scarred, reactors patched with alien tech, crews half exhausted from constant battle. But still they gathered. Every ship that could fly, every fighter that could launch, every soldier still breathing. Admiral Drake's address was short and raw. This is it. No more retreats. We take that gate or we lose everything. You all know what's waiting. Some of you won't come back. But if we win, humanity doesn't just survive, we claim the stars. Make your choice. No one left. Not one ship pulled away. When the fleet jumped, the void itself seemed to shudder. The gate appeared before them, an immense construct of black stone and molten veins, suspended between twin suns. It pulsed like a heart, its scale dwarfing even the largest dreadnought. And waiting around it was hell unleashed. The Zethian armada filled the system. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. Warships in precise formations, leviathans moving like predators scenting blood. Their lines stretched from horizon to horizon, an ocean of teeth. The battle began before the Terrans had time to think. Enemy fire tore through the first wave of frigates. A dozen human ships died in the opening minute, venting crew into the void. But the Terran fleet answered with everything. Hybrid cannons screamed, torpedoes streaked into enemy lines, fighter squadrons dove into the swarm. The clash was apocalyptic. Leviathans roared across the battlefield, their living hulls twisting to block human salvos. Carriers vomited wave after wave of Zathian fighters, blotting out the stars. The Terrans countered with sheer madness, fighters loaded with improvised warheads, pilots diving straight into enemy engines and detonating themselves. Cruisers rammed Leviathans head-on, carving paths with their dying cores. Every inch forward was bought with blood. Through the chaos, Daniel drove the iron requiem like a spear. His ship wasn't the largest or strongest, but it was fast, patched with alien cores that made it burn hotter than anything else in the fleet. He knew the mission: break through, reach the fortress beyond the gate, and unlock whatever weapon the Voon had left behind. His escorts died one by one, holding the flanks as the Requiem punched through enemy screens. On the comms, voices screamed, cut off mid-sentence as ships winked out. He forced himself not to listen, not to falter. Every sacrifice cleared one more path forward. The fortress lay beyond the gate, a colossal citadel orbiting a dead star. Its shape was jagged yet majestic, half buried in darkness, as if carved from the corpse of a god. And at its core, a structure like a cannon stretched for kilometers, silent, dormant. The orb pulsed violently the moment they entered orbit. Daniel felt it before the voice spoke. This is the last fire, our vengeance, but it cannot wake without a soul. One must give all to burn the stars. The realization hit him like a blade. This wasn't just a superweapon. It was a suicide key. The Voon had designed it to require sacrifice, to fuse a living essence into its core, binding mind and heart to power it. Behind him, the Terran fleet was breaking. Admiral Drake's flagship was crippled, half its decks gone. Zathians poured through the gate, their numbers endless. Humanity's line was seconds from collapse. The choice wasn't a choice at all. Daniel tore the orb from its cradle and carried it into the fortress heart. The corridors were dark, but the orb lit his way, guiding him to the core chamber. It was vast, a cathedral of machinery, with conduits spiraling toward a central cradle waiting for the crystal. He pressed it in place. Pain lanced through him instantly, but it wasn't physical. His mind was being pulled apart, stretched across circuits older than Earth itself. He felt his memories scatter. His childhood, his squad mates, the faces of his crew. Yet in that storm, he held onto one thought. Humanity must live. On the comms, Drake's voice was breaking. "Requiem, report. Vera, where the hell are you?" He smiled faintly, though no one could see. "Doing what we do best, Admiral. Making sure they remember us." The fortress awoke. Every conduit blazed with light. The cannon at its heart charged, swallowing power that bent reality itself. Outside, the Zathian fleet hesitated for the first time in centuries, sensing what was about to come. Daniel surrendered himself completely. His life, his soul, his fire. The cannon fired. The moment the cannon fired, the system itself seemed to rupture. A beam of pure annihilation tore across the void. Not light, not plasma, but something deeper. Raw will forged into energy. It lanced through the Zethian fleet like a god's sword, splitting ships, unraveling shields, burning leviathans down to husks. The blast stretched from horizon to horizon, cutting through thousands in an instant. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. The Zathians faltered. Then panic spread. Their formations broke. Their command ships turned. Their once endless waves staggered. The predators of the galaxy had never faced prey that bit back like this. But the price was Daniel. His voice vanished from the comms as the fortress consumed him. The orb's glow merged with the cannon's heart, and with it, so did he. His essence stretched across circuits older than Earth's continents, fused into the weapon itself. His body was gone, but his will burned inside the fortress, guiding every pulse, every blast. The Terran fleet didn't waste the opening. Admiral Drake roared orders, and the battered survivors surged forward. Frigates gutted stragglers, cruisers poured fire into retreating leviathans, fighter squadrons tore apart the enemy's broken wings. For the first time in living memory, the Zathians weren't advancing, they were running. The fortress fired again, and again. Each shot carved reality open, annihilating entire swaths of the alien armada. The suns around the gate trembled under the weapon's fury. But each pulse dimmed the glow slightly, as though drawing deeper from Daniel's fading soul. Inside that storm of energy, Daniel no longer felt human flesh. He was the fire itself. He sensed the Terrans fighting below, their desperation, their hope. He felt the Zathians recoil in terror, their arrogance shattered. And deeper still, he sensed the Voon, the echo of the ancient architects watching. Their whispers came faintly. At last, one worthy. "Not us, you," he didn't answer. There was no time. He burned. The Zethian command flagship, a behemoth larger than cities, rallied the last of the swarm. Its presence bent space, its weapons rivaling the fortress itself. It hurled everything at the Terrans, desperate to crush the fragile rebellion before it spread across the stars. Drake's flagship took the brunt, decks shattered. Flames roared through the hull, but still it fought, its guns tearing chunks from the Leviathan's armor. Other Terran ships sacrificed themselves in suicide runs, detonating reactors against its hide. Yet the beast endured, advancing relentlessly. Daniel focused what remained of himself. He poured his essence into the fortress core, drawing deeper than it was meant to go. Circuits screamed, the chamber cracked, the entire structure shaking as if about to implode. One last shot, he thought. Make it count. The cannon blazed brighter than a star. The fortress's outer plating ripped apart, unable to contain the energy. The weapon released everything: Daniel's soul, the orb's last reserves, the Voon's ancient vengeance. The blast hit the Zathian flagship dead center. For a moment it resisted, shields flaring, armor boiling. Then it collapsed inward, torn apart atom by atom. The Leviathan didn't just die, it ceased to exist, erased from reality. The shockwave tore through the remnants of the swarm, scattering them into broken fragments. When the light faded, silence stretched across the void. The battlefield was littered with wrecks, glowing debris drifting like ash. Of the Terran fleet, barely a third remained, battered but alive. The Zathians were gone, fled, shattered. For the first time in centuries, humanity had not only survived, They had won. Admiral Drake, bleeding and burned, stood on the ruined bridge of his flagship. His voice cracked, but it carried, "The gate is ours. The enemy is broken, and we owe it to one man, Captain Daniel Vera. Remember his name. Remember what he gave." Across every surviving ship, crews whispered that name. Some wept, some shouted. Others sat in silence, too stunned to believe they were alive. But all knew that humanity's story had changed. The fortress drifted, half ruined, its cannon silent. Deep inside, faint echoes lingered. Daniel's presence not gone but woven into the machine. Not words, but a feeling, resolve, fire, hope. In the weeks that followed, the Terrans rebuilt. They carved new ships from wreckage, salvaged alien tech, and fortified the gate. Messages spread to the scattered colonies, Earth lives. Humanity fights back. The Zethians would return. Everyone knew it. But the myth of their invincibility was broken. Across the galaxy, whispers grew of a new force rising, a species too stubborn to die, too reckless to kneel on Titan. Beneath the old wall where Daniel had once bled, the stone pulsed faintly with alien light, as if remembering, as if promising. Because though one man had fallen, his fire had spread to all of humanity, and now the galaxy would never forget.